Good morning, this is Jack from the Untitled Chapter, and this is the pre-market recording for Monday, the 3rd of August. Our disclaimer, we do this for educational purposes only. We're here to share our technical analysis with you. We hope you can take some of what we're doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. We're not here to issue trading signals. Right, now what I was talking about on Friday was the possibility that we might come back to retest the high, and we have come back and we retested the high. This is a potential level top area, and I'll be talking more about that on the SPX charts. For now, we've got a nice looking potential level top on ES, and at the open we should also retest the high on SPX. NQ, I was wondering, very much needed a retest, and we haven't quite had that retest, but we are pretty close. Chances are it needs a full retest on that one too. I've got a nice bull flag that's now broken up on NDX. We're pretty close to the high retest. I think we're going to see it. That is going to involve going at least a little bit higher, but I'll be talking about resistance above when we get to the SPX charts. RTY. We're back above the new weekly pivot. Is this a head and shoulders that broke down slightly? Maybe. We may need a high retest here too, and we might need one also on YM, although we are a long way short of that on YM, and we may actually just be forming a right shoulder on a head and shoulder pattern here. This would be left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and so on. Coming from here, it would be in proportion, it'd be a nice pattern, and the ideal right shoulder high would be about here. High retest looks a long way off on that one. Now, DAX and the SDX, we've had 60-minute buy signals fixed on both of those. We've made target pretty much almost to the tick on DAX, so I'm rushing that one off, and we're slightly above the monthly pivot. That's not yet converted to support. We've also had a daily sell signal fix on DAX, and I'm thinking we may be forming the right shoulder or head and shoulders. Ideally, that would come a bit higher into about the 12,800 to 900 area, but I'm not expecting to see a high retest here. I'm not really expecting to see one on the STX. In fact, if we go back to the declining resistance, which is currently at about 332.65 area, then we may well find resistance there. That's also a pretty good match with the monthly pivot, and of course we've reached the possible near miss target there as well. Okay, let's have a look at the index charts. Now, here, obviously on the daily, we had another support at the daily middle band, and that has held. And the last ones, this one here, delivered retests of the previous high, and this one is delivering the retest of the previous high too. We're not going to get any negative divergence here in the near future. And the question is, and I'll look at this more on the 60-minute chart, and the question is, I have a very nice trend line here. And it's very nice, and it may hold. And if that's the case, then we're not going to go a lot higher than we are now, maybe another 10 handles. Now, this is a wedge resistance, so if we get up to touch the wedge again, then at that stage I move this lower wedge, this wedge support trend line, and at that stage it's an unbroken wedge again, and with just a very nice resistance trend line. And the rising wedges, it's the resistance trend line you watch, just as it's on falling wedges, it's the well, actually that tends to be the resistance line you watch as well, but the falling wedge support trend line tends to be the one which defines the wedge. This defines the wedge. So if we get back to it, I move that and it's an unbroken wedge again. If we could break over it, then it may well be a bearish overthrow, and that could run a little bit higher. That could get us up into possibly as high as the 3,300 area on ES, and maybe a little higher than that, but probably not a lot higher than that. So we've got a 60-minute sell signal, RSI 14, which reached the possible near miss target, but mainly I'm looking for double bottom top resistance here, and I'm really looking at this trend line here because it's a very nice trend line, and I think there's a pretty good chance it's going to hold. So we will see how that goes. Now, NDX, we also have a daily sell signal fixed, it's quite a nice one, that's now backed up by the DAX one. Decent odds that we are making a high here. Here is the bull flag on NDX, which was a nice one. I mentioned this actually last Monday as a possibility, and we respected that all week. And we're going to gap over it at the open. I think we're going to head straight up into the right high retest, and then we see whether this is double top. It's not a bad double top setup. Rising wedge, breakdown, retest high. You know, it sets up a nice double top. We probably won't have any 60-minute divergence, maybe a little bit on the RSI 5, but I'm watching for resistance here. If we do not find resistance there, and if we do much more than a marginal higher high, then I would be looking potentially at a move to this trend line here. And that trend line is currently in about the 11,600 area, so that's quite a long way further above, and so that's a big decision to make. Chances are it's going to fail, but we will see. IWM, not really. Well, are we going to retest the June high is the real question on IWM. We have been holding. This looks like a bull flag consolidation. It's likely to see a retest of this high in the 150.20 area. How much higher? Hard to say. It depends what happens on the very key setup on ES. And SPX, and on Dow, I'm doubtful about seeing a higher high. I'm not really seeing a head and shoulders, good head and shoulders forming here, but there is one here. This is it. This would be the neckline here. If so, we wouldn't go a lot higher, and the next big target down would be this one down here in about the 25,000 area. Okay, right. Let's have a look at other instruments. DX, a rally is in progress. Now we made the buy signal target. I've got a possible weak 60-minute sell signal brewing, and we're getting pretty close to a very nice potential head and shoulder neckline. That's at 94, and I'll be watching that. At the moment, we seem to have converted the weekly pivot at 93.4 to support. I'm looking for a decent rally here, but after that, I'm looking for more downside. And we got pretty close to a key longer-term support trend line in the 92 area, and I think that's going to be the next target. And that's where we might see a much larger rally start if we find support there. ZB looks like a flag forming, and this is actually held up exceptionally well with equities heading back here. I think we're heading back to a retest of the low on TNX, and I've got that probably in the 184 to 185 area on ZB. CL, very possible head and shoulders forming here. The ideal right shoulder high would be in about the 41.2 area, and we'll see how that goes. We could see another retest of this high, but I'm leaning towards that holding. We do have, and we are stopping at so far, strong support and strong resistance at the new weekly pivot and monthly pivot at 40.31 and 40.50 respectively. NG, I was calling this on chart chat yesterday. I was saying we had a possible buy signal brewing. It looked like a flag wedge, and here we are. I was expecting to see a retest of this high, and we've gone to that, and I was thinking we'd probably retest this high here, and I wasn't seeing any particular reasons to stop there, because I think the larger pattern here is a large double bottom with double bottom resistance at about 2.08. I think we may well be on the way there. We have no current negative divergence. GC, now obviously what happens on the dollar is mattering an awful lot on GC. So we've got a nice little potential double top here. If we see a sustained break below 1975 and then the weekly pivot at 1972, then we could see a target down in about the 1940 area. I've got bigger picture support also at a possible head and shoulder neckline or larger double top support at the monthly pivot at 1926. I'll be watching that. SI, still thinking this topping setup would be improved by a retest of the high. Doesn't show any particular signs of delivering that at the moment. HG finally made it to my flag support. We've been waiting for quite a while on that one, but we had nice support here at 2.83 area. The low overnight was 2.8306. That is nice. The obvious next target is this flag channel resistance, currently in the 2.971 area, and on a break above, a retest of the high here at 2.993. USD reached a possible head and shoulder neckline. Going to be watching that. This is a sort of distorted mirror of what's happening on DX. GBP USD, we had a sell signal fix that's reached pretty much target, so I've called it. We're testing the weekly pivot as support. Obviously, much depends on what happens on DX, but I would note that this high here, I've been talking about a target in the 1.32 area for weeks, and we made it. Pretty much, very, very slightly short, but pretty much a make. So this is an area where we could be topping out for a significant reversal. USD JPY, this could be an IHS forming. It's not particularly pretty, but it's been spiking up here. On a retest of this high, we would have some negative 60-minute divergence. USD CAD, wondering if this is heading back to trendline resistance in the 1.355 area. Possible inverted head and shoulder forming here, and be a slightly upsloping neckline with resistance at about the 1.349 area. Australian dollar, nice looking double top here. If we get to below double top support, we could see a move down to the annual pivot at 0.6937. NZUSD, nice looking double top here, and it is broken down. I haven't marked in the target here, but that's in about the 65.50 area. It's a range because the highs aren't quite the same. So I'm thinking it might make that no current divergence, the sell signal made target. KC, I've got a possible rising wedge here, which is overthrown. So I'm watching this. We've got a lot of negative divergence already. If we see a break below the wedge support in the 1.145 area, then we could be topping here, but I've no obvious topping pattern at the moment. I've got a decent looking potential head and shoulder neckline, however, in about the 1.135 area. SB has gone higher as expected. No current divergence, not really seeing much reason for it to stop here. CC, we've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed. It's been continuing higher. I think we're probably going to see a retest of this high here, which is in the 2.437 area, and possible resistance there. That could be, yeah, I mean, we've got some level resistance there. I mean, we're past the potential inverted head and shoulder neckline. We'll see how that goes. ZW, I've got a possible flag forming here. It's not particularly well defined. It could be a triangle, but I've got resistance in the 537.5 area. Corn, we've got this big falling wedge here. We've reached the 315 retest target, and it's breaking up slightly. We're on a 60-minute buy signal. I think this may be bottoming out. I've got a decent looking double bottom here with resistance in the weekly pivot area. If we were to see a sustained break above there, we could make it back to the 324 area. Soy, we had a sell signal fix here, but it's failed overnight. I was noticing on Chart Chat yesterday that we were getting mixed signals because corn looked as though it was bottoming and soy looked as though it was topping. Soy has broken up, which is supporting the long thesis on both. Live cattle, the bull flag broke up, made the retest of the target. Not seeing much obvious reason for it to reverse here. And lean hogs, this could be a flag forming, but equally, if we find a lot of resistance at the week pivot and monthly pivot, 49.64 and 49.77, then we could be heading back to a retest of this low. All right, any questions today, guys? What is the daily support price? On what? Right, can you clarify when you would move your rising wedge support trend line? Yes, although that's an SPX target, but it's easy enough to convert over. They're about 10 handles apart at the moment. I've got that resistance here in about the 32.95 area. So really, we're going to be reaching that at the open. Or pretty close to it. If we get visibly over this trend line, so up to about 32.90, well, at that point where we hit it, I would move the trend line. So it's an unbroken wedge again. If we get over that, then it's my theory will be that this is a bearish overthrow, and I will be looking for a reversal. If we see, it obviously won't be, the support trend line will be close to it, so we can break down from it again. We've already got potential topping action here, so I'm thinking we may well see stands fail at 32.90, although I would like to see very much the high retest on NQ as well, NQ NDX, and also, there are things suggesting that we might go a bit higher, like for instance the HG setup, which has been moving with equities reasonably well lately. So I am wondering if we might do a more sustained break above, possibly get us about as high as 33.10. On ES if we are doing an overthrow of this trend line. Okay, could I expand on, hang on, wait a second. Right. What is the daily support price on ZB? Well, Stan's going to be posting the daily today only levels. In terms of the support I'm seeing on ZB, really, I haven't got an awful lot till we get down to this potential head shoulder neckline in the 180.30 area, but it's not a strong level. I think in terms of a flag support, because I think this may well be a flag here, and it is in fact a flag here. We've already made the flag channel support target, so I'm thinking we may well pretty much be heading up from here, barring retests and so on. But I've got this trend line currently in the 181.09 area. It's we've already hit it at 181.10. So short-term support, that's a pretty decent channel support. Can I expand on silver? Silver, I'm thinking the precious metal is going to be moving together more or less. I think silver's stronger than gold because an awful lot of the story here has been more about silver and solar panels and so on and so forth. I would what I'm not seeing here is a decent topping pattern. So that's why I was saying that the might be strengthened by a retest of the high. That looks quite distant at the moment, but if we see a strong reversal on DX to come back and, let's say, retest the low or get down to 192 target, then it could easily do it then. Right. Any more questions, guys? All right, now on ES, the key thing is today we're pretty near resistance at the 3290 area. I'm looking for that NDX target, and I'm expecting that to be made fairly shortly. I'm expecting that to be made this morning. I'm thinking we might overthrow slightly, in which case we've got a possible overthrow range. I'm thinking in the 3290 to 3310 area. I'd be looking for a reversal there. At the moment, we haven't got much in the way of negative divergence or any on the 60-minute chart, so we may need to develop some of that. But we've got a nice double top set up. We're in a resistance area here, and I'll be watching for signs of that reversal. I'll be looking also at the SPX shorter-term charts to see if I've got anything suggesting exactly where that high might be, and if I find it, I'll post it. All right, guys. Anyway, I'll catch you on the Twitter feed. Should be an interesting day in the context of it being a Monday, which sometimes is not actually that interesting or can be a bit choppy. We'll see how it goes. Should be a fun day, I think. All right. Cheers, guys. Catch you later.